team to face the Springboks have been announced. And in this video, I'm going to be going through both teams, all form, all that kind of stuff. Put that out aside, because you know both these teams are going to give 110%. So let's start by just looking at the hooker and the props from the All Blacks to start the game. Now, it's Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor. No surprises to me there. I thought those two would start. I predicted that. And Fletcher Newell. Now, I thought that they'd play Lomax. And it's just because Lomax have not, since he's had his injury, had enough game time. And Newell has been pretty good. To me, it doesn't make no difference to me that much. I think Newell goes in with, like, he's battle hardened, he's ready. And then, of course, Lomax from the bench. But a strong starting three for me for the All Blacks. Then looking at the Springboks, a very good combination between both Oxenchair, Malcolm Marx and Thomas du Toit. Now Oxenchair and Malcolm Marx, a lethal combination. Thomas du Toit has been hot cold. Apparently he's had a really good season overseas, they keep referring to. I've not seen him be outstanding in a Springbok jersey, and I'm just being dead honest, guys. I don't have to faff around about it. I don't think Thomas du Toit has been outstanding in a Springbok jersey. So to me, no issues with the decision. Do I think he's better than a Wilco Low to start? No, but I also understand they want to bring impact. So 100% happy with the decision. I don't think it's bad. I have to say that the fact that Vincent Koch is getting older, so he's falling a little bit out of favour, but Thomas du Toit is also not the youngest. I would have probably rather put Vincent Koch, but either or for me, both pretty good. So it is Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, Fletcher Newell versus Oxenchair, Malcolm Marx and Thomas du Toit to start. Now this is where it gets interesting. From a lock perspective, we all thought that Tupou Vaa'i will stay in that sixth position and stay a loose forward. Interestingly enough, that Scott Robinson's decided, he's probably spoken to Vaa'i and said, can you go back into that lock position? Because Vaa'i was so good. If they looked back probably in the last year or two, him playing in that lock position, he's been really good. And I think that they just feel for this game against the Springboks, they need experience, because the Springboks will challenge them in those lineouts, because they are featuring two very good jumpers in the names of Eben Etzebeth and Ruan Nortje. I predicted these two to start there, and they are starting there. And it's because Ruan Nortje is such a good jumper, and he's really, really improved for me in the last year to two. And they're coming up against a really good, opposition combination in Scott Barrett and Tupou Vaa'i now. And that's maybe where Scott Robinson, I think, didn't do a bad call here for Razor to bring Vaa'i up into that lock position. It is, for me, tough when you are doing that to a team and you keep messing with a player having to jump between positions. But that's what you call utility. And when you've got utility players and you can use them, you're going to use them. So, Vaa'i, let's just look strictly. Eben Etzebeth and the Ruan Nortje starting versus Scott Barrett and a Vaa'i is a good matchup. So far, all these matchups looks really good. And it gives a mouth-watering start for us from a forward pack perspective. Now let's go look at the loose forwards. This is where it gets juicy, if you can put it that way. So from a Springbok perspective, you've got Marco van Staden, which I expected to be at 6. You've got Pieter-Steph du Toit at 7, which is World Rugby Player of the Year, just a brilliant player. Yeah, I gotta say, probably those two really, really good combinations. And then the big question was around Siya Kolisi. Siya wanting so badly to play. We know how he feels about these big games and what he brings. And I'm so glad Siya's playing, because it brings a different dynamic to this team. I think it's good for rather Siya Kolisi and Kwagga Smith being your 2 8s than a Jean-Luc du Preez that hasn't had a lot of game time. So for me, really glad that Siya can be in this game, and he's going to bring in intensity. Now, what do they match up to? So it's a Simon Parker, which is pretty much, he's played minimally for the All Blacks. I think he has played a game. Yeah, he has played a game or two, but minimally for the All Blacks. Then you got Ardie Savea. Man, going out for his 100th test. I'm so glad for this guy that he can do it in front of, New Zealand, at Eden Park. How special for this guy to be able to do this. I'm a big Ardie fan. I've always been an Ardie Savea fan. I just think he's such a hard worker and such an iconic player, such a humble player, a good guy. And so glad to be able to be part of this, from a Springbok All Blacks perspective. And I think the Springboks also have huge respect for Ardie Savea. I think if you ask people, who do you like the most in that All Black side, a lot of people will tell you, a lot of Springbok supporters will tell you Ardie Savea. If I could choose one guy to play for the Springboks, it would probably be Ardie Savea. And then, of course, it's interesting here is again, a lot of movement for me when it comes to Robertson. He's now playing Ardie Savea there and Wallace Satiti at 8 with Simon Parker at 6. There is some change there, guys. So he's gone and moved Tupavai up. He's brought in Simon Parker. And the main reason for bringing Simon Parker in is his size. Simon Parker is a big unit. He's a good carrier. But he's new to the mix, man. So when I'm looking at Marco van Staden, Pieter-Steph du Toit, Siya Kolisi, that shows experience and size and power. And I don't know. When I'm looking at a Wallace Satiti, Simon Parker, Ardie Savea, Satiti's not been in the best form. Simon Parker, new in the mix. Yes, he can be good, but is he going to be good enough to stand up to these guys? We're just looking head to head here, guys. There I have to go with the Springboks. I think it would have been very even for me if the Springboks didn't have Siya Kolisi at 8, but I think that really strengthens that team. And what I really want to also see is Ardie Savea and that open side flanker. He's been a bit quiet this year. I'm sure he's going to have a machine of a game. I think everyone's going to play out of their boots. But I do think if I just compare the two selections, I have to go with the Springboks there. Then 9-10 selection. This is Finley Christie and Bodie Barrett, like I thought, versus Grant Williams and Andre Pollard, just like I predicted. That's going to be a good matchup. Both good players, man. Finley Christie comes with loads of experience. Bodie Barrett with him, his teammate from the Blues, playing on their home stadium. It'll be a good combination. And then, of course, Grant Williams and Andre Pollard, for me, the two best at 9 and 10 for sure in South Africa. And I'm glad that Rassie is realizing that Grant Williams is his number one player when it comes to 9, his best choice for 9, and that Andre Pollard's his best choice for 10. And defaulting to the right players, and I think that's just, both bring different things, but both is just going to be phenomenal. Bodie, from just his skills point of view, looking for space, looking for those kicks in, ground kicks, grubbers, that kind of thing, pushing the ball in behind the Springboks with the rush D. On the same side from the Springboks, the up and under game, the Springboks will want to play that. Andre Pollard's ability to know when to run the ball, when to put the kicks up, to play corners. And then, of course, just the elusiveness of a Grant Williams. Grant Williams has got elusive, super fast pace. So you got to watch that guy. He's just so fast and so talented. Finley Christie also comes more of a kicking type game, a bit of a slower 9, but kick very good with his skills in his kicking. So it's a good matchup. But I got to lean a little bit towards the Springboks. Maybe it's because I'm wearing this shirt. Who knows? When I put on this shirt, it seems that I'm maybe leaning a little bit more to that side. Guys, then let's go look at next. Let's look at the centers. So the midfield, you've got Damian Delalendi and Jesse Creel. Featured for years. I think coming up to be the most experienced 12 and 13 ever to play for the Springboks, versus Geordie and Billy Proctor. Geordie Barrett and Billy Proctor. Geordie Barrett, all the time in the world. I think he's great. Billy Proctor, still been quiet, has not totally shown what he's capable of. And if I have to do that matchup, I still feel, and I've said this in my predictions build up, I still feel that definitely a Damian Delalendi and Jesse Creel seem like the stronger midfield combination there from defense and attack point of view. Geordie Barrett can do some damage, but Geordie is definitely going to be targeted again by Pieter-Steph du Toit. They're going to repeat exactly the same stuff as they did in the World Cup. And you'd think it's long ago, but for some of these players that played that World Cup, it'll be fresh in their memories. Siya Kolisi, Pieter-Steph du Toit. And those guys are going to target Geordie Barrett. So he's going to have a lot of pressure on him, which means Billy Proctor will have to try and get that pressure off of Geordie. And I just don't know if he's got the maturity yet. So we'll see how he matches up against a Jesse Kriel, which interestingly enough is the captain. So they've not made Siya Kolisi the captain, but they've made Jesse Kriel the captain, which I found quite interesting. Nothing wrong with that. Jesse Kriel talks a lot on the field, and I think that will give him a different type of pride to really play well. Again, man, that head-on-head matchup leaning towards the Springboks. Then 11 and 14. This is where I got the biggest shock. There's been no real talk about Moni Naroa. There's just not been a lot of talk about Moni Naroa. I really didn't think he's in the mix. So not having Lester Fangianuku there, I think he's better for me than Naroa. Personally, I just feel he's better than Naroa. Naroa's had a great season though, and we can't take that away from Naroa, but I guess they were also just playing games. Maybe they were just playing games by announcing Lester Fangianuku is in the team and all of this, and everyone was thinking, okay, Leicester's going to get that 14 jersey. And then the interesting thing is then picking a Moni Naroa. I think maybe expecting that the Springboks will try and announce their team early to kind of throw them off a bit. But then again, the defense against a Naroa and Lester Fangianuku wouldn't be very different in the way you plan for the team. But going for a Moni Naroa, still a big guy, still a very good guy under the high ball. Rico Ioane has got to, after the shocking performance last week, it's like Razor said, he's got to this week perform and prove himself. Otherwise, he's pretty much telling him, you'll follow suit with Savu Rees. Then lastly, a Will Jordan at 15. Now, if we compare that and we look at what we're getting from the Springboks, we're getting a Kainan Moody versus a Moni Naroa, and you've got a Cheslin Colby versus a Rico Ioane. And then you've got a Willie Leroux versus a Will Jordan. Now let's just talk about those wings. Head on head, a Naroa versus a Kainan Moody. It could be close. I'm leaning towards Kainan Moody, and it's not just biasy. Kainan Moody's played a lot more for the Springboks lately than a Naroa. Rico Ioane versus Cheslin Colby. I'm sorry, guys. For me, it's Cheslin all day. From all perspectives. His commitment in the air, his work rate, his speed, his step. Both have got speed, but there's something about Cheslin that just puts him in a different class to me. And Rico Ioane is finding himself in the middle of, am I a wing, am I a centre, what am I lately? And I think that's the only thing that Scott Robertson must be careful of. He's got a lot of players that he's playing in different positions, and they seem to be getting confused where they play. Tupo Vai is the same thing. Then it's locked, then it's loose forward. He's got to be careful of that. Rassie does the same with his team, but I've got to say the team that he's called here to play pretty solid in their positions. He's not picked a team of players that are playing out of position that much. That's the starting team. When we go into the bench, I have different thoughts of the Springboks. But anyway, a Will Jordan versus a Willie Leroux, that's a really good matchup. I've got to lean with Will Jordan. For me, is still the better rugby player, but Willie Leroux is a very good, he comes with a lot of experience and organizational skills in that back line, and I think that's what was needed. Again, that was my prediction, and that is what's happened with this game. So Rassie has gone to the experience, and if I look at that team from the Springboks and I look at that team from the All Blacks, when I'm looking at the Springbok team, I see probably one of the best teams that you can put on the field from a starting perspective from the Springboks from the form of this year. It is probably the best team you can put on the field. So to me, I think Rassie's going all out and saying, this is my best starting XV. When I'm looking at the All Blacks, it looks like a lot of shuffling for me. There's a few changes, but some of those shuffles are good. I understand the fact that Avayi had to go to lock because they have to compete in that lock positions, and they were short on players there. You know, I know Josh Lord could have come in, but I think this was the right call for Vai to move up there. They're putting in Simon Parker. That's the only thing. He's still new in the mix, but he is a big unit and he can carry against the Springboks. So not bad calls, I must say. For me, the whole Moni Naroa, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. Still the Billy Proctor there at 13. I don't know. Still holding on to Rico Ioane. I don't know. I would have probably played a Lester Fanginuku and Imoni Narawa rather on wings, because Rico Ioane from a bench could have worked, but I just feel Rico has not proven himself enough this year to deserve that starting jersey. From a Springbok perspective, I wouldn't have changed much in that starting lineup. It does mean a guy like Mapimpi didn't make the team, but a Cheslin Colby and Kanan Moody is just the better options for me right now. Now let's go look at the benches. Who is the hookers? So we've got Samisoni Tekehau, so great off the bench, a really, really impact player, a really good player. Who are we having from the Springboks? Well, they don't have Bongi and Bunambi there, and they've not gone for Marnus van Wyk as a hooker. They've gone for Jan-Hendrik Wessels, who's actually playing. He's a utility player. He can play hooker, but he predominantly plays, prop. Now, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, I've seen on hooker play pretty well. I must say he is very talented. It's just how will his throw-ins be second half if he comes in that hooker position, because it's not necessarily what he focuses on all the time. But anyway, they're going for Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Then, of course, Boan Venter. So Jan-Hendrik Wessels versus Samisoni Tekehau. I have to go for Samisoni Tekehau. I think he's stronger off the bench. And this is where I'm looking at the Springbok bench and I'm like, where's that impact? The Springboks have moved away from the 6-2 split, by the way. They're also going for 5-3, and I don't understand it. The starting team from the Springboks all scream DNA, forward type game. That goes with a 6-2 split. But for some reason, Rassie goes for 5-3. I don't really get that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if you're going to be going for that type of team that's back in the DNA Springbok type way they were playing at the World Cup, stick to your 6-2. Why do you need 3 backs? Why? So it doesn't make sense to me. There's a lot of things with the bench from the Springboks that don't make as much sense to me. But let's keep going. I mean, what I found interesting is the fact that, it looked a little bit more like Razor Robertson was trying to still bring a lot of impact by keeping Karevi also from the bench. So, but let's keep going here. A Boan Venter then as a prop with Wilco Louw as the 2 props. Boan Venter and Wilco Louw versus Tamati Williams and Tyrell Lomax. Now, Tyrell Lomax is a really good scrummager, but at the moment Wilco Louw to me is just as good, but Wilco Louw has had a lot more game time this year. So I will pick him there. When I have to go Tamati Williams versus Boan Venter, I have to go Tamati Williams. Even though Tamati Williams has been out, he will find his feet this week, and he's going to play with fire because this will be a big stage for him. And then Boan Venter, that's really kind of new. I think he's played 1 game. I mean, he's thrown into the mix there just suddenly. And then I look at it, and it looks like both coaches are just bringing in guys that's not played a lot and put them under the biggest stage. Now, I know you want to give a lot of these guys exposure, but maybe just for these 2 games for the All Blacks and the Springboks, you want to really put up your most experienced team. And I just found it interesting that Boan Venter is there and that he's not go for Marnus van Wyk and made a few different combinations there. It's a bit weird for me that there's not a more experienced, prop from the Springboks there and going with Boan Venter in the end, instead of a Vincent Koch or something. But anyway, that's not where I was finished with my surprises. Then we go to, he plays only 1 lock, but he adds a 3rd backline player. So he's gone for Lood de Jager. Lood de Jager will be facing up against Fabian Holland from the All Blacks. So the All Blacks got Fabian Holland, great guy from the bench, young, youth, been really great, good idea. Start Vai, play him from the bench. He'll be matching up against Lood de Jager. Lood de Jager is he's an older guy, but so experienced, such a good jumper. So that's tough, man. I don't even want to make a call. I will obviously lean a little bit towards Lood de Jager just because he's been playing for years. But what a good matchup. And that's what Razor did right here, because Vai will be starting. Now you can have some impact from that bench and also bring some big bodies from the bench. Then, of course, the difference here is then you've got a Kwagga Smith coming up, and then you've got a Kwagga Smith coming up against a Du Plessis Karevi. What a good combination to take those 2 players, because they're very similar. Smaller guys, stocky guys that's all over the ball. I I still got to feel from Kwaga's experience point of view and just what he's proven. Duplessis Karivi still got a lot to prove in an All Black jersey. I have to go with Kwagga, but what a good matchup. Both really, really good players. That brings us then to, it seems like a real 5-3 matchup this time. We usually can't do that, and I don't know why Rassie's gone for an extra back. It tells me he still wants to play the running game against the All Blacks, and we might find him this week playing a lot more of the running game than we expected. And he might just surprise the All Blacks big time. They think it's going to be a kicking game, and then the Springboks just play a running game. So don't be very careful of Rassie, because Rassie will surprise you. So everyone, but if it can pull off is another thing. Everyone might be surprised and he starts playing the running game. But if that is the right option and if it's going to work for him, I don't know. Because his backline, this replacement, this bench, makes me think that he wants to play running rugby. He's got 3 backs there. He's got Carl Preston matching up to Kobus Reinach. Got to say there, Carl Preston brand new into the mix. Not much of a choice when it came to what Reza could do. So because Ratima is injured with the ribs. So Kobus Reinach, definitely the more experienced guy from the bench. Good kicker, very fast around the fringes and edges. Sasha Feinberg, Ngome Zulu matching up to a Damian McKenzie. Both also great players. Just very elusive, fast, unpredictable, can do crazy things on the field. It's such a good matchup if you really think about it. And then, of course, last, Ethan Hooker, a guy who's not really played all that much, coming up against Quinta Paya, which is also not played all that much. So, but when I'm talking Ethan Hooker has not played that much, I think he's only played 1 test or something. It's a young chap, he's new. He's putting him up in the biggest stage, which I don't have an issue, but I just don't know. It's a good matchup against Tupai, and I think, again, like there, it's probably got to go to Quintupai, because Quintupai's been around for longer and more experienced than Ethan Hooker. But what I don't understand, if we go away from the head-to-head, why the Springboks went 5-3, unless they want to still run the game, because they could have now, instead of a Ethan Hooker, stuck a Archie Snyman in there. Or even a Franco Mostert, but I would have said RG Snyman. If you think RG Snyman in here, you start creating more of a Bond squad vibe again. You've got Lode Jager and RG Snyman's got to be off the bench, man. He's so good. I don't understand why you will not play this guy and you will go for an extra back. They didn't need the extra back in Ethan Hooker. Kobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu is enough. There's enough in utility in that team that they could move someone around if they needed to. So yeah, I mean, it just gives me indications and makes me think that just maybe the Springboks want to play some running rugby, guys. Now this is interesting. Guys like Archie Snyman didn't make it. Mostert didn't make it. From the All Blacks perspective, you have a Savuris. You got a Savuris that didn't make the team. You've got the likes of a Josh Lord that didn't make the team. And then a shocker that Lester Faginuku, also not there, didn't make the team. So from both sides, I guess, really interesting selections, guys. I do have to say, it's all going to come down to gameplay. Obviously, the All Blacks have got the home advantage, which is a big thing. When I'm going from a head-to-head perspective and I just look at it, I just feel that Springboks will have a little bit more in their team. The only concern for me is I don't think the Springboks will have the impact from the bench that they usually have because of that one extra back that they've substituted forward for a back. I really felt that extra, the 2 locks would have really made a big advantage because, the All Blacks don't have 2 locks to put on the field. So why Rassie Erasmus wouldn't take advantage of that and go put on an extra lock to just put extra pressure on that lineouts, I don't get it. It almost feels more like Rassie was just looking at what Razor was doing and saying, I'll match you and do exactly the same. Like gambling, I'll just match you. Instead of saying, hold on, I see there, I'm going to not just match you, I'm going to raise you and put an extra lock in there. And just for me personally, I feel that the decisions that Rassie made, he had some time to still make changes in this team before he announced his team because it was 12 o'clock for the All Blacks. It was 5 o'clock for the Springboks, but New Zealand time. But I just got to feel that I think he made a mistake by not putting that extra lock in and making it a 6-2 split. I really do think that. Do I think that means they're going to lose the game? I don't necessarily think that is a determining factor for losing or winning. Guys, this is going to come down to a nice edge. It's going to come down to a flip of a coin to me. I really think so. I really think this game is going to be a 1 to a 2-pointer between these two. Please, no more 1-pointers. Like we say as Springboks, our nerves can't take it anymore, and I'm sure you All Blacks also feel the same. No more 1-pointers. But whatever the score is going to be, it's going to be super close, and I think these teams match up well. I do feel there from a selection point of view and just personnel, the Springboks have a few things over the All Blacks. But overall, I think the All Blacks with the home advantage and just the total pride that they're playing for that record, that'll even it all out, and this game could go either way. Anyway, we'll build it up some more, and if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, guys. If you like what I'm doing here, the whole head-to-head thing, I don't think anyone else does it, and the way I present my videos, if you enjoy that, hit the subscribe button, and I'll thank you and see you in the next one. Bye.